The year is 2009, and what a poppin' year to be alive. Obama was just inaugurated, Michael Jackson just died. The market's still declining, your parents are struggling financially, but you're having fun on the Wii still, so who cares? Gangnam Style had just come out. But let's be real, when you think back to 2009, what is the first name that comes to mind? That's right, Barbie. At least if you were around my age and were in the target demographic for Barbie. Personally, I was on a now 18-year and counting Spider-Man kick, but you do you. But Barbie was, at the very least, a very important name to one corporation in particular, and that was Universal Studios. September that year, Universal had struck a deal with Mattel to take control of all of their Barbie movie IP. With that, they announced that they would be making a live-action Barbie movie. And what a great idea that is. Don't get me wrong, some of those animated Barbie movies went hard. Looking at you, Martin Short. But a live-action Barbie movie? Come on, man. I got dollar signs for eyes. So, Universal announced that it's in the works, and then, nothing happened whatsoever. For the next decade, the Barbie movie was held in kind of a limbo. Diablo Cody, Anne Hathaway, Amy Schumer. Are we sure about that one? No? Okay, good. It wasn't until 2019 that the live-action Barbie movie is finally announced to release sometime in 2023, starring Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling. Universal finally... What's that? Warner Bros? Not Universal? Alright. I guess they dropped that ball, that's fine, I don't really care who makes it. Besides, Universal seem to have a pretty big release coming up themselves, besides the Mario movie, with Chris Pratt as Mario. It's some movie about the guy who invented the atomic bombs. It's directed by Christopher Nolan, of Batman and Inception fame. It's called Oppenheimer. In July of 2022, they drop a teaser with a release date of July 21st, 2023, and I myself was pretty excited. I heard that Chris Nolan got to detonate a bomb for filming, which seems dangerous but cool. So I'll be real, I was way more excited for Oppenheimer than I was for Barbie. And then in December, the teaser for Barbie drops, and what day is it announced for but July 21st, 2023. Barbie is releasing on the exact same day as Oppenheimer, and I don't know about you, but if you ask me, that's hilarious. The tonal juxtaposition between these two flicks is just very funny to me. The only double feature that even comes to mind that was similar is Dark Knight releasing next to Mamma Mia. It's also a Chris Nolan film, which is funny because he's not really down for that. He's gone on record saying that he's not happy about the whole Barbenheimer thing, which leads me to think he's a big old bum. But the internet really just latched on to the whole Barbenheimer meme. I was just getting bombarded with it left and right, and it did not help that Ryan Gosling was in it, let me tell you that.
It officially broke the internet.
Well, you know, the internet's been trying to break me for years.
Yeah.
So, obviously, I called up a group of friends to watch it as a double feature.
It's a perfect double bill. I think actually start your day with Barbie, then go straight into Oppenheimer.
We have two amazing films by amazing filmmakers coming out the same day. Spend the whole day in the cinema. What's better than that?
Barbie first, Oppenheimer for lunch, and then a Barbie chaser.
So these two movies came out on the 21st of July. That's two, but close enough. I just so happened to get back from a trip on the 21st of July, and that meant that I had to be way ahead of time in ordering tickets. After a bit of deliberating in the group chat, I bought the tickets about a week out and then went out of signal entirely.
So it's like 2 a.m. I just got back from my trip. I've been in a low signal area, so I haven't had a chance to even see spoilers for these movies, and I'm super excited because today or really yesterday was an opening day, and I'm going to see it in a couple hours. No spoilers whatsoever. I don't know what happens with Ken and Barbie, and I don't know what happens in Oppenheimer. I have my fingers crossed that he doesn't blow up that bomb, but I guess I'll just have to see.
And see you would, Trace. We had planned an entire outing with this movie. We'd gotten nice seats at the Marcus, formerly known as Warenberg. We made lunch plans. We even got a little dressed up, trying to cross the themes. Alright, so I am in my Barbenheimer fit here. I got my sports coat with a striped shirt. I got dark jeans on because my slacks are too short. And from my closet here to prove that I do actually own clothes and these aren't those virtual outfits that were going around TikTok for a while. I'm excited. We're about to leave in a couple minutes. First we're watching Barbie and then Oppenheimer, and I've heard really good things about both so far. Very vague and basic, just that they were good. The only complaints I've heard were from Ben Shapiro, and a 1.5 stars from somebody I know who follows Andrew Tate on Instagram. So I think I'm picking up a theme there. I'm sure I'll like it just fine. I'm expecting Oppenheimer to be better though. Christopher Nolan's a really good director. I don't know much about the director for Barbie. We'll have to see though. I'm excited. I haven't found my dad's brown fedora that I thought kind of like resembled the Oppenheimer hat, but I decided against it. Also, this hat. Look at him, judging me. No. My good boys Clayton and Avon showed up to get all dolled up for the showing, if you will. I just like to appreciate Clayton's spiffy and completely nonsensical outfit. Cassette tapes with the ascot. So, we loaded up. Alright, so which movie are we most excited for here?
The one with Margot Robbie in it.
And we set out, sure to play the appropriate soundtrack on the way there. So we met up with 2 other friends, Grace and Logan. We scanned our tickets. I bought myself a pop, which came in not a Barbenheimer cup, not a Barbie cup, not an Oppenheimer cup, but a Mission Impossible cup. I cannot stress how little I care about Mission Impossible, Tom. Why don't you do your own stunt out the door? Oh, Tom Cruise has actually shot 47 times in the chest for one of the shots. I don't care, okay? Make it 48. Needless to say, I was very excited, so into the theater we went. We were confronted by Greg Marcus being a general goober.
Oh, Snickers. Slow down, but you don't listen. Hey, nobody likes it, I told you.
And that was it. There I was, finally watching Barbie. Where to start with this movie? Like I said, I genuinely didn't expect much when I heard about its release. I never really was around Barbie growing up. My only sister is 11 years older than me, and all the girls I was friends with preferred Legos. And yes, I know boys can play with Barbie too, but that doesn't mean they will. Genuinely, the only experience I ever had with Barbie was blowing them up with firecrackers in my neighbor's backyard. Like Sid. But that's not to say I didn't expect it to be fun. Like, the trailers looked really good. So by the time I bought tickets, like, I at least expected it to be good. But I was not ready for exactly how good it was. First off, the visuals were phenomenal. Both the costume design and the production design in general, both of them actually were led by Oscar winners who worked on The Batman, 1917, Atonement, Sherlock Holmes. They genuinely went above and beyond to make Barbie Land really seem like it was made out of Barbie products. And everything I just said goes for the music in this too. It's weird to think of it as a musical, but I guess it is. Ryan Gosling even gets his own single, or multiple singles, I guess. There's a song in the beginning of the movie about the perfect world that Barbie lives in. Then after she starts feeling a bit off, the music stays like upbeat, but the words start to become more like cynical. And I just love stuff like that. I don't have anything specific to say, but it's just really well done. I like it. That's for you, Mattel. Aww. So I guess that leads me to the story then. The story honestly reminds me of The Truman Show, I guess. There's this character who feels like they're in like the center of this perfect world that they live in. And as they live it up in the perfect world, they begin to realize that while the world they live in may seem perfect, it's only that way if you take it at face value. Barbie, though, takes a more Tarantino spin on that, moving the story forward with just a lot of feet-related content. Gerwig saw like Kill Bill and decided that she's not to be defeated. I'm gonna kill myself. But unlike The Truman Show, this revolves around multiple characters dealing with the world and watching it crumble around them. Barbie starting to feel off with her feet flattening and body otherwise de-idealizing, de-barbifying, I guess, and thoughts of death looming into view. So this character, who I will not be explaining, tells her that the world is starting to change because the girl playing with her is going through changes of her own. And it was at this point in the movie where I was like, okay, so this is going to be like a coming of age movie where the child is like on the cusp of adulthood and has to accept that life is hard and deal with some of the harsh realities on the way there. I wouldn't say I was disappointed with that. It's kind of what I expected. It's just been done a lot. Like a lot. But anyway, Barbie decides to go to the real world to check it out. Meanwhile, Ken decides that he ought to sneakily tag along with her. Ken's story is such a defining and really hilarious part of the story altogether. And this is why.
Nobody plays with Ken, man.
You don't really play with Ken.
Did you play with Ken? Exactly. Exactly.
It was available.
And yet,
He stayed in the toy box.
he's an accessory. And not even one of the cool ones.
He's an accessory of Barbie. No, I want to set up this story because it made me laugh. You're like, no, the reason why I took this role, you got a call from Greta Gerwig or an email.
Right.
From Greta, who's a great actor, director, writer. And she offered
Brilliant.
the role of Ken.
Yes.
And you went out in your backyard and you just want to think about it for a second. You go in the backyard.
Best script I've ever read. I walk out in the backyard, and do you know where I found Ken, Jimmy? Face down in the mud next to a squish lemon.
And this is the photo. You took a photo of it. And this is a sign. This is a sign that you got to do this movie. The utter disrespect.
I texted it to Greta, and I said, I shall be your Ken. For his story must be told.
Much like in the real world, Ken really isn't given a lot of love in Barbie Land. His job is beach, not lifeguard, just beach. Kind of like how my hobby is video. He's only important to Barbie when it's convenient, and any other time he's an afterthought. His whole purpose is Barbie, and that's such an obvious story beat for his character, but a super well done one, I think. Ken and Barbie head into the real world to find Barbie's owner, and while there, Ken gets sidetracked and discovers how much of a man's world the real world can kind of be. And Ken, being Ken his whole life, is thrilled. Meanwhile, Barbie is just going through it. She finds who she thinks is her girl, her name's Sasha, and introduces herself to her, only to be completely torn apart by her. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because Mattel is very upset that Barbie has left Barbie Land. Mattel, by the way, who is headed up by Will Ferrell. If I had a nickel for every time Will Ferrell played a CEO in a toy company in a movie where the figures in the brand are living people, I'd have 2 nickels, which honestly, since I rarely carry even 1 nickel, that actually is quite a few nickels for me. But it's also weird that it happened twice. She's picked up by Mattel, and it just so happens that the mother of Sasha, her name's Gloria, works for Mattel, and she helps Barbie escape and goes with her back to Barbie Land. Why? Well, because Sasha was never really Barbie's girl. Gloria was. All of a sudden, I was hit with the fact that this wasn't a coming-of-age film. This was an age film. Barbie's worried about death, but she's even more worried about the stuff that comes in between now and the very end. Everything she's supposed to be versus everything that a real person inevitably will be. We all know we're going to die someday, and most of us are able to come to grips with that. Getting a severe thunderstorm warning on my phone, so it could be now. What gets us is whether or not we'll consider the life that leads up to that point successful or not, and what it means to be successful, and if it's okay if it's not. Gloria's not sure if she's getting what she needs in her life. Her relationship with her daughter is struggling, and all she wants is to bring back some of the whimsy of having a young daughter by playing with her old Barbies, but it just wound up being sad. And this part of the movie really just reminded me of my days as a mother. Also, Barbie meets up with this kind old soul at the Mattel building, but that'll be important later. So they set out to restore Barbie to Barbie Land, except it's not Barbie Land anymore. It's Kenland? Kenmark? But anyway, Ken brought back what he learned about the patriarchy, and he taught it to all the Barbies. I realize now that I'm explaining the entire movie, which I don't mean to do, but basically Barbie's crushed by all this, not because Ken took over, but because she's not what she wants herself to be. She doesn't see herself as beautiful or strong anymore. Lucky for her, though, she has the exact type of person that she needs for this, and that's a real one. This is where I think the movie lost people like Ben Shapiro, because it began to imply that women are somehow disadvantaged in the real world. Are they, you ask? Why would you ask me? I don't have that experience, and neither does this guy. In my opinion, yeah, I don't think I really need to expound on that, actually. It's pretty cut and dry, and it's not that type of video essay. But I do think it's weird to be mad at a movie for saying it. Oh, but you don't understand. Men face struggles too, for sure. And this movie does such a good job of representing that. Ken feels slighted by Barbie because all he wants is Barbie. And that is a great way to build up resentment. But as Gloria goes around and shakes some sense into all the Barbies, Barbie has a heart-to-heart with Ken. Tells her about everything he wants with her, and he realizes that they don't want the same thing. And then she tells him maybe it's not supposed to be Barbie and Ken. Maybe it's Barbie and it's Ken. And I really like that message. Value doesn't come from the expectations that others have for you. It's a clean and simple message, and it's a nice 180 from the message that Barbie has been peddling to young girls for the past 70 years.
Switching sides.
I really want this hoodie, by the way. Like, really bad. And then Barbie becomes a real person through the magic of that old lady, who happens to be the founder of Barbie. Her name's Ruth. I don't know much about that history, but that's her. I don't really know how to explain this scene, but it was very emotional, and it hit me in the feels. She wanted to be a person, and Ruth tells her that means eventually she'll die, but she'll have all that life in between, and ultimately, that's all right. And that was it. That was the whole movie. Needless to say, I was astounded by the movie. I was expecting some, goofy fun, and I got a solid social commentary that includes themes of dying. I had fun, though. I liked it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Same goes for Avon and Grace. Logan gave it a 3.5. Clayton left with a solid 5 out of 5 satisfaction. So we packed on out of there. I got some pictures with my boy Logan in the little Barbie car, which I think was the actual prop from the movie. Then we headed out to eat lunch. We had about 2 hours to eat and get ready for the next showing. I won't lie, I was reeling from that movie alone. I had a lot to digest. Barbie, the fried chicken I just ate. So 2 things, I guess, but those are both doozies. So, and now you're telling me I'm going to have to watch another movie, and I know for a fact that it will be heavier than either Barbie or fried chicken. So we headed back to the theater. Clayton inconspicuously brought my stupid Mission Impossible cut back in. There it is. Yay. 3 more hours of content. I still need time to digest the fact that I'm literally Ken. How am I supposed to process all of this while I'm watching a bomb? A big old bomb. I also brought my group into the theater a little too early by accident. And then literally everyone who was waiting to go into the movie theater also followed me. So there was just a line of people in the walkway while the cleaning crew was just trying to do their job and squeeze around us. A few people laughed. A few people went, oop, sorry. Others just stayed awkwardly silent. I could only think, now I am become annoying. Disturber of service workers. I suppose we all felt that, in a way. I was feeling like a decent piece of dread by the time I sat down. And it didn't help that I had to watch like a billion 480p commercials in a dark room and then watch the same trailers that I just saw 3 hours ago. Once again, I was confronted by Greg Marcus on the screen, but this time was different. Somehow he seemed warmer, more welcoming. And it set me to thinking, maybe Greg is the reason I like going to the movies so much in the first place. Maybe Greg is cinema. And as long as he's there watching over me, I can handle anything this double feature has to throw my way. Even Oppenheimer. I can't win with hats, can I? So, I am a huge sucker for biopics. I love them very much. Social Network is one of my favorite movies. The Founder, Walk the Line, The Irishman, Hidden Figures, Catch Me If You Can, The Batman, that one's about me. There's something about taking a historical narrative and turning it into something that people are happy to sit down and watch for 2 hours. It helps that I love history to begin with, but not everyone feels that way. They're my favorite videos to make on this channel, and they get the worst views, so it's clearly not everyone's cup of tea. So to take something that people see as mundane or might find as mundane and to turn that into like a thrilling retelling as a movie is really something. And that's not what Chris Nolan did at all. There is not any part of Oppenheimer's life story that is not interesting. J. Robert Oppenheimer, who was a general fiend and terrible person, super arrogant dude, tried to kill his teacher, slept around with a bunch of married women like a hamster with other married hamsters. I don't know where I was going with that. Self-serving dude who doesn't really have great consideration for other people. And now this self-serving, overall reprehensible dude is about to do a service to his country that will change the world forever. And just by premise alone, he has to see that, recognize the type of person he is, what he's done to the world, and how that's going to affect the world he lives in for the rest of time. So I wouldn't call that a mundane premise, per se. There's a lot to get into with this movie, but first of all, I just want to point out how perfect the casting was for this. Just gonna throw some pictures on the screen right now. Also, masterclass of acting from this guy and this guy. I had trouble with the fact that he's still Iron Man and his voice is still Iron Man, but crazy acting. Super well done. But I want to go into the score. Chris Nolan loves his music, maybe a little too much sometimes. Sometimes to the point where it's hard to hear what's being said on screen. It's a little frustrating for a movie whose dialogue is super important, just the most important part of the movie. But that's alright because so much of this music is... Sorry if I wasn't clear enough. Without being like downbeat, it produces such a feeling of dread. I can't really explain it, but it's good. I'll try to sprinkle some more in while we move into the cinematography. I don't know where to begin. Nolan has always been really good at cinematography. Okay, not always, but this movie follows a couple different time frames. Some flash forward to the aftermath, while some are happening at just various points across the original story. And in addition to this, there's another presence from Iron Man, also known as Louis Strauss. Everything in his perspective is shot in black and white, which I think represents like the narrow worldview of politicians. There are a lot of bits of just subtle genius cinematography. For example, Oppenheimer is always just enamored by ripple effects, which is definitely foreshadowing for the effects of the Manhattan Project and really everything he does in his life and how it affects the people around him and the unforeseen repercussions. This movie also makes an allusion to Prometheus, who
was punished by the gods for giving the gift of knowledge to man. He was cast into the bowels of the earth.
I'm not going to pretend to have picked up on all of these bits of cinematography genius all by myself from one watch. There was a lot going on in this movie, and it's also subtle, or maybe I'm just also dumb. But there are two scenes in particular that I want to focus on. Not those. Actually, yeah, I think I should talk about them. Too much. I'll say it. Too much. You know when you're having a conversation and you keep hearing a word over and over to the point where it has no meaning to you and it just lost complete bearing on the conversation. You know it's probably there, but you become so used to it that it's just completely faded out of your conscious awareness. That was my experience with just all of Florence Pugh. I don't think Nolan has done scenes like these before, and now that he's dipping his toes in it, my advice about them is to calm down. Just calm down next time. That said, the scene where he is in the conference room during the security hearing, really well done. Shows the growing shame of the character and how it's affecting him and his wife, and realizing that every major choice he's made in his life is now open to scrutiny. That was great. But again, calm down. But seriously, there are two scenes that I really want to talk about. The first of which is the Trinity testing. Everybody gets prepared for the test. They have sunscreen, or they're either on the ground or behind cover. Tension is building up as they prepare for detonation. The music swells, and then just nothing. The bomb goes off, fireball goes up, but the explosion does not make a sound. We hear Oppenheimer's inner monologue, the whole "now I am become death, destroyer of worlds." Nolan didn't use any CG for these shots, so it really gives you a time to just sit and appreciate like how much work went into recreating You knew the blast was coming, but you also just had no idea. People jumped and screamed like in the theater around me. It was just a really cool symbolism for the fact that the bomb wouldn't be felt initially for us back home, and then it hits us. The second scene is similar. Truman has dropped the first bomb in Hiroshima, and the result is absolutely devastating. Oppenheimer is called up to give his victory speech, and he does, but he's having trouble processing the fact that his device that he made was used to destroy an entire city. As he's looking around, he stops hearing the people cheering his victory, except for a scream. He watches as they're blown away just like his victims were. The part that really gets me is when he snaps out of it. He can see everyone again. And then he steps in something, and he looks down, and it's the husk of a Hiroshima victim. And after that, I just felt sick, even thinking about it now. And I'm recording this like a week later. So yeah, I like the cinematography. But you know what I liked even more was the story. I gotta say, I don't think there's as much that I can do with this story. That's because I'd be basically copy and pasting the entire Wikipedia page, because this movie is crazy historically accurate. I'd actually say more time if I listed the things that were inaccurate rather than the things that were super faithful, and I'll do that. These are just the things that I've read wrong. There may be more, but what I was able to find was 1, Bohr was not present when Oppenheimer attempted to poison his teacher, and Oppenheimer was caught after attempting this. The Secretary of State, Henry Simpson, was depicted as asking to remove Kyoto from the list of potential targets because of cultural significance, but also because he honeymooned there, and while he did visit Kyoto, he never honeymooned there.
So I'm putting this in post because this just recently came out, but apparently the guy who played the Secretary of State improvised that line off of his own research, which is pretty funny that they left it in because it's wrong.
During Oppenheimer's victory speech, many in the crowd are shown waving a 50-starred flag. Flags with 50 stars would not come about until I think it was 1960. I've seen some people say that it's like representative of the beginning of modern America when we first used the nuke, which maybe. I think it was a mistake, but I'll take it. Oppenheimer also didn't verbally oppose the use of the hydrogen bomb for particular moral reasons. Rather, he just thought the resources would be better spent on the atom bomb. That's not to say he didn't have moral qualms, but it's not put on record. Jean Tatlock did not canoodle with Oppenheimer in the buff during the security clearance hearing, as she had died 10 years earlier. I'm not really sure how they messed that one up, but beyond that, I could literally just copy and paste his Wikipedia page from when he left Cambridge to his security clearing hearing. So what I really want to focus on in this story segment is the theme. Oppenheimer tells a story of mutually assured destruction from every angle. At least that's what I could figure. Everything that he harms him more, starting with poisoning that apple, which prompts Bohr to tell him that he should go to Cambridge. That starts him down his whole journey, studying in the University of Göttingen, I think. He meets Heisenberg, who should have been Bryan Cranston. Oppenheimer declines to work with him, and then Heisenberg goes on to head up the development of nuclear armaments in Germany. He finds Tatlock and ultimately breaks her heart, and she, down the road, is used as a weapon against him and his credibility. He meets and knocks up his future wife, Kitty, throwing their lives for a loop as they clearly were not cut out to be parents. He meets Louis Strauss, who was the chairman of the U.S. Atomic Energy Commission. Then he humiliates Strauss in front of Congress. Strauss seeks to destroy Oppenheimer's credibility and job, and does so, and in doing so destroys his image to the scientific community and to Congress. But more significantly, we see Oppenheimer develop the technology to destroy civilizations. Prometheus gives the gift of fire to man, and that fire spreads. When Oppenheimer consulted Einstein on the atomic bomb originally, he told Oppenheimer that he feared the detonation would destroy the world. And now, so many years later, Oppenheimer thinks he might be right. Yeah, we're all doomed. That was it. The movie was over. I couldn't feel my face. You can probably tell by looking at it. I don't know if I've ever felt like that after watching a movie, and if I had, it's been a long time ago, and it wasn't often. I honestly just felt hollow. Avin and I kept releasing like those little stress breaths, you know, after walking out, which I am aware does make me seem like a middle-aged Midwestern dad, but I kind of am. Oh boy, that was a doozy. It was almost like I had become death, destroyer of worlds. Almost like I was an atomic bomb. But our rankings look something like this as we left the theater. Avin and I were obviously very affected. Logan and Grace both liked it in different degrees, and Clayton gave it a lower rating than Barbie, but I think he was stuck in Ken mode. In fact, I think he's still stuck in Ken mode. As we leave the theater, I'm looking at all these people, right? Some are dressed in 40s attire, some are dressed in bright pink. Juxtaposition, I called it. It means a stark contrast between like two things that are side by side. But maybe these two movies weren't so different. Maybe it was a stroke of some kind of accidental genius that these movies got paired together for the same release date. Both movies warn audiences of the like inevitable conflict of humanity having too much power. That in a conflict between mankind and mankind, the only loser can be mankind. One shows how we can use that power to draw lines of division that shouldn't be there and force people into a box, to hold the world under the big old thumb of expectation. Without a balance of power and autonomy among people themselves are taken advantage of. The other one shows that even in the throes of war, we have to consider the heights of power that we're willing to strive for. Otherwise, the destructive force could be more than we intended, or worse, more than we can control. Both of these stories, in their own way, warn of a mutual destruction. The oppressor and the oppressed, the politician or the one in power, and the world that they play with. I guess the message is, don't do that. That's right, you heard me. Don't do that. No more sexism and no more atomic bombs. I decided. We're done. Wait a minute. Almost like I was an atomic bomb? Oh no! What? What is this place? Where am I?
That's a great question. I would love to tell you.
Is that God?
Hi, I'm Greg Marcus, and I want to welcome you to...
That's all for today, though, folks. I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked this video, I got a bunch more like it, so take a peep at my channel if you're interested in more of that type of thing. And if you could, drop a like on this video, hit the subscribe button and the bell button and the comment button and all the buttons on your keyboard. But thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.
Don't delay. I'll hold you close and kiss those radiation burns away. Slide to the left, slide to the right.